skeptic argument, the blood stains are too neat. Do you think the blood stains you're looking at right now are too neat? That's type AB positive blood with bilirubin, passed over a dozen tests, acceptable evidence in any court of law. Bilirubin would be found in the blood of someone who was, for example, beat to death with a baseball bat, was suffered severe trauma, blows to the body, scourged, crucified. That is what is present in the blood, on the shroud, and on the headcloth in Spain.
There is reference to the headcloth in the Gospel of John, and it's written like this: and the napkin that was about his head, not lying with the linen cloth, but wrapped together in a place by itself. During the course of this presentation, I'm showing you both the positive and the negative image of the Shroud of Turin with the headcloth applied. I'm doing this so you can see it from both angles. And as you're seeing right now, I'm switching now to the negative side. That's the negative image of the shroud. And again, I'm doing this only so that you can see it from both angles, not just using special effects to dazzle you. But I want you to be able to see this up close and personal, and most importantly, so you can see it with precision, accuracy. In addition to containing elevated levels of bilirubin in the blood also shares numerous other similarities. For starters, this is type AB positive blood, one of the rarest blood types in the world. It is also post-mortem blood, meaning the person that made contact with these claws was dead. There's also fresh blood, blood that was shed while the person was living, and it is not clotted or coagulated, another extremely unique property. It also contains double X chromosomes. It is consistent with what would be a virgin birth. The calculated odds that the blood on the shroud and the headcloth is a coincidental match and is not from the same person is 1 in several million at the least. Logical conclusion, the blood is from the same person.
Bear in mind also that in cases of violent death, the blood will not clot or coagulate. This is another point made by the skeptics, that the blood would have clotted or coagulated, not in cases of violent death. That is a forensic fact. This also gives us insight into the cause of death, which would be suffocation caused by the accumulation of fluid in the thorax owing to the inability of blood to coagulate. Also, bear in mind that the blood on the headcloth and the Shroud of Turin, the table napkin and the tablecloth, is both post-mortem blood and blood from while a person was still living. And when a person was crucified, not in all cases, but in most cases, would die of asphyxiation. That means that the lungs fill with fluid, and that person will cough up that fluid on the headcloth in Spain, in the area where the nose and mouth of that person is pulmonary edema fluid. It is not randomly put onto the cloth. It is exactly where it would be in perfect forensic agreement. Well, if someone would have died of asphyxiation, that is exactly where it would be. That is where it is, because it's genuine. The nose in the man on the shroud measures 8 centimeters. The nose of the man who was covered in the headcloth in Spain is 8 centimeters. Identical form of chin. This is a capital murder case. This is a wrongful death case. And we want to know who that man in the shroud is. Out of respect for him, we're going to give him a name. And he deserves that. In the same way, if this was your father, or if this was your mother or brother or sister, husband or wife, son or daughter, then we're going to give that person the respect of doing a thorough investigation. We're give a name to this person, and we know who this is. This comes from the book of Psalms. I am poured out like water, and my bones are all out of joint. My heart is like wax. It is melted within me. My strength is dried up. My tongue clings to my jaws. You have brought me to the dust of death. The congregation of the wicked has enclosed me. They pierced my hands and feet. Forensic evidence on the Shroud of Turin. One wrist bears a large wound from piercing. Second is hidden by hand. There is a large puncture wound in the feet, as by a single spike. Pierced. They pierced my hands and feet. Streams of blood down both arms at the angle that would occur from crucifixion. The nail wound is exactly in the space of desktop, which conforms exactly to how that would be done in Roman crucifixion. Now also, when you look at the image of the Shroud of Turin, and look up close, get a close-up of the hands. This is a point made by skeptics. It looks as though Jesus has very long fingers. But what that is the metacarpal bones in the hand and the fingers combined. So this image has X-ray quality. When you look at the Shroud of Turin, it has a photographic / X-ray look to it.
This is an image that was not formed by the visible light aspect of the electromagnetic spectrum. This is a short wave, high frequency burst of light. Yet it is not X-ray or gamma ray, as we have eliminated those also as being possible forming this image. The light source that is responsible for the image is not of the electromagnetic spectrum that we know of. But we do know the light source that created the image is short wavelength high frequency, meaning 750 trillion cycles per second minimum. Immediately get out of your head, camera obscura. That is the visible light aspect of the electromagnetic spectrum. Neither is it ultraviolet, X-ray, or gamma rays. They have all been eliminated as being possible of producing the shroud image. We can only conclude that the image was formed by a light source not of this world.
Hello everybody, welcome back. Tonight I want to make this the conclusion of this video that I've decided to end all the work that I've done over the last 7 years. Kind of come to this one point in everything I've done now. I'm not really walking away and I'm not giving up. That's not it. In 2011, my friend showed up at my house after telling me about a video when the rebel comes home. He had told me about this thing for a very, very long time. In fact, my friend that came to my house and showed me this one video, he followed the whole thing with Elvis being alive for 10 years or better. And during this time of that he was doing this, I was going through this other spiritual battle, and I got out of that period of my life, and I was putting everything back together, rebuilding my life, living like God wants us all to live, you know. But my friend came to my house and he was telling me about when the rebel comes home. He kept telling me about this video on the phone. And I was like, I'm not really into impersonators, CC. But the day when he came to the house, you know, I just got internet just recently, before before that day, he showed up knocking on my door. He came in, we were hanging out, and then he just out of the blue said, "Have you seen that video yet?" I was like, "No." And we went and watched it. And people, it was, for me, I wasn't quite aware that I was looking at Elvis Presley in the video. But to hear that song, I knew Elvis Presley was back. It was just like Elvis was standing right there in the room singing that song to me, to us. I could not believe it. My entire life, I knew that Elvis was alive. Earlier in life, I was showing everybody I could that cassette tape. I didn't have much more than that. I had the National Choirs and the Bill Bixby special, and everything was shown there. And I was showing everybody this stuff. I even went to Elvis this is maybe one of the big things that I missed out on when I was a kid. There was a Washington Fair in Washington, Missouri, and there was an impersonator show that night. But I was young. I was probably 16, 17. Want to hang out with my friends and go ride rides and all that. But I remember walking through the fair and I seen this impersonator and I thought it was Elvis. Still to this day I kind of question it. Was it really? Now I question it more than ever. But I remember talking to this guy and I was like, "Is Elvis alive? What's going on?" And well, he told me, I don't remember a whole lot because it's been so long ago. I remember some of it though, and he told me something like if I wanted to hear Elvis Presley to watch the show tonight. I didn't get what he was telling me, and I was just a kid, and you know, he had told me that he would meet me later on, if it was the next day or after the show, I don't remember, but he said he would meet me over by the gate. And I remember I went and got, I believe, the Elvis is Alive book along with the tape. And I went and talked to the guy. And he asked me if I liked the show. Well, I didn't. I watched a couple of songs, and it was impersonators, and it didn't hold my attention. So I went and hung out with my friends and watched the rides, or road rides. And I told him, and he's like, "Kids." But the guy I talked to, I remember he said something that, and this never has made any real sense to me, but he told me back then something like, "You find the world's best impersonator, then you find Elvis Presley." And he also told me that something about how all of this something about how Elvis was looking for Elvis was looking for someone, and they said something about Jesse, Elvis's twin brother. I don't know if they were telling me that Elvis was looking for Jesse or if it was two different things. Like I said, it was a long time ago. But it was a very interesting event in my life. Now I look back because of all this stuff that has now happened. The last 7 years, I have done my very best to show the truth about Elvis Presley. And that was the easiest of everything I've done. That was pretty easy. It was very weird because every time I made a video, I thought this was it. This is going to go viral. Everybody's going to know after I get this published. I thought that when I flew that airplane. Everything, you know, I didn't fly the airplane. I hired someone to fly the airplane. But they flew around the World Series playoffs in St. Louis, Missouri in 2013. I thought everybody was going to know the truth just because the people there to film the game would get pictures of this airplane. People would see it when they're watching the game, or the news, and then they would Google Elvis found alive. It was the perfect advertising publicity stunt that I could come up with I thought with no doubt that it would get the truth into the mainstream media. And I worked and I saved money and I set up a annual flea markets here in town, and I sold a whole lot of my collectibles that I collected over the years, and anything I could to come up with extra money to get what I needed together to hire this airplane to do this. I thought the truth was going to go viral that way. I thought everybody would Google or get online and search for Elvis Found Alive, and they would discover the movie, everybody would find out about it, and the truth would come out. It didn't happen. Nobody there that day even showed a glimpse of that airplane. Didn't mention it at all. Now, the game itself on the radio, like in the first inning, I believe, they were talking about a catcher and the changes he went through, and they said something about could be someone in the witness protection program be responsible, or they were talking about one of the players in the game. But it was very odd how they said that. I believe that was in the first inning. I actually got the recording somewhere of it. But people, there was no coverage of the airplane. Nothing happened. I believe that showed us that there really was people in power keeping it out of the media. Somebody censored all that. They wouldn't allow any coverage of that to be shown, because people probably would have found out that way. So what actually took place was something very, very cool, even though at first I was upset that no one covered the airplane. But God knew that this would actually prove what Elvis said in the movie about the people keeping it out of the media. You know, as I've done my videos, they never turn out the way I thought they would when I started, such as this one here. You know, I thought I would make one simple video and it would be my last. And it turned out that I believe that this is part 9 or 10. The last 3 nights I have shared a lot. I've shared things in my life that I did not care to go back to. Things that I don't care to remember. Now, if you've watched the last 3 nights, you know that I've talked a little bit about fighting that fallen angel with that woman. And the woman who I loved, how I fought a demon for her. And how that fight went on for years, even after she wasn't there anymore. Now, everything I went through during that period of my life was a learning experience. It was building my faith. Because when God wanted me to do what I've now done over the last 7 years, as these people told me in 2007, God chose for me to do this. But it would have to be my faith in God and His Son, Jesus Christ. It would have to be my faith that everything that I remember about how God sent me all this help, I would just have to believe that it was real. There would be no proof.